My new wife, Vanessa Sterling, booked a hotel room with her first love. She came back and threw the photos right in my face. Julian Thorne, I don't love you. Seeing you break down like this feels amazing. I backhanded her without hesitation, the force of it drawing blood at the corner of her mouth. Break down? You think you're worth that? She froze. Her lover's restaurant was shut down by the health department the very next day. I bought off the media to leak her cheating photos. The title of Mrs. Thorne is too clean for the likes of you. She knelt, begging me to let her lover go. I gripped her chin, my smile cold. Heartbroken? This is just the beginning. Smack! A stack of photos slammed onto the polished mahogany desk, sliding across the surface and scattering. They were obscene: hotel beds, tangled sheets, intertwined limbs. The protagonists were my wife of less than 3 months, Vanessa, and her old flame, a starving artist named Adrian Cole. Vanessa stood opposite me, wearing a brand-new Chanel dress, her chin held high. Her face wore an expression of almost cruel triumph, her eyes bright and piercing, staring at me as if admiring a rare artifact. Julian, her voice was crisp and loud, carrying a reckless edge. Did you get a good look? I don't love you. I never did. Marrying you was just my father forcing my hand. Now Adrian is back. I slept with him, just last night, right next door to the honeymoon suite you booked for us. It was incredible. She stepped closer, almost pressing against me. The heavy scent of her perfume, mixed with the lingering, unfamiliar musk of another man, drilled into my senses. I just wanted to see, she grinned, a twisted arc, eyes flashing with madness, how that face of yours, always so high and mighty, always in control, would crack. I wanted to see you break down, go crazy over me. Julian Thorne, you have your bad days too. You. Break down. I interrupted her. My voice wasn't loud. It had no inflection, calm as a frozen lake. When the photos first hit the desk, my heart had indeed clenched as if gripped by an invisible hand. A dull ache, but only for a second. Immediately after, a cold, rusty rage shot from the soles of my feet to the top of my skull, burning until my fingertips tingled. The vicious words she had prepared, expecting me to lose my composure, were choked back by those 2 words. The triumph on her face stiffened. She clearly hadn't anticipated this reaction. I slowly stood up, rounding the massive desk. My leather shoes made no sound on the thick carpet, yet each step seemed to stomp on her taut nerves. She subconsciously took a half step back, her feigned aura of madness instantly shrinking. Break down for you? I curled my lip, the smile cold enough to freeze water. Vanessa, do you think you're worth that? As the words fell, my right hand was already moving, carrying a sharp gust of wind as it swung. Smack! I used every ounce of my strength, showing no mercy. The crisp, loud slap detonated in the overly quiet, luxurious study, making the air hum. Vanessa was knocked sideways, stumbling into an antique cabinet with a dull thud. Her meticulously styled hair fell into disarray, covering half her face. She clutched her cheek, looking up in disbelief. The eyes that had been filled with malicious pleasure a moment ago were now wide with shock and confusion, her pupils trembling. A trickle of bright red blood slowly seeped from the corner of her split lip, winding a harsh path down her pale skin. She was stunned, completely stunned. The script wasn't written this way. The weeping and wailing she expected, the hysteria, the sight of Julian Thorne, God's favorite son, collapsing for her. None of it happened. Only this slap, vicious and heavy, making her see stars and shattering her self-righteous fantasies. You dare hit me? She held her face, her voice trembling uncontrollably, laced with tears but mostly incredulous anger. Hit you? I looked down at her, my gaze like I was viewing a pile of revolting garbage, cold, disgusted, without a trace of warmth. Hitting you is letting you off easy. Vanessa, have you forgotten whose name you carry? Mrs. Thorne. You were the thorn face to a hotel with some stray dog, and you have the audacity to come back and brag? You want to see me break down? I took a step forward. The immense pressure made her flinch, her back pressing tight against the cold cabinet. Fine, Ismail, Asmail, deep poison. I'll open your eyes today. I'll show you what a true breakdown looks like. But the star of the show will be you, and that death wish lover of yours. I turned sharply, no longer looking at her disgusting face, and grabbed the internal line on the desk, punching the speed dial. Marcus. My voice through the receiver was hard as cast iron. Look into it. The West Side. The Whispering Palette Bistro. Owner, Adrian Cole. I want that place shut down by tomorrow. Immediately. Now. Marcus's crisp response came from the other end. Understood, Mr. Thorne. I slammed the phone down. The loud noise made Vanessa flinch again. She seemed to finally recover a bit from the shock and pain of the slap, catching the key information in my words. Her face went deathly pale, even uglier than when she was hit. "Julian, what are you doing?" she shrieked, lunging to grab my arm, but I threw her off with disgust. "What did Adrian's shop do to you? What gives you the right to touch his business? If you have a problem, take it out on me." "Take it out on you?" I turned, looking at her face distorted by anger and fear, finding it incredibly ironic. "What's the rush? We haven't even started. The show is just beginning." I adjusted the cuff of my shirt, which had become slightly disheveled from the exertion. My movements were slow and methodical, carrying a cruel elegance of absolute control. "Vanessa, watch closely." I stared into her terrified eyes, enunciating every word clearly. "Watch how you and your precious first love get crushed by me, bit by bit." You psycho." Her voice was shrill, tearful, her body trembling violently from fear and rage. "Psycho," I scoffed, my eyes sharp as knives. "You drove me to it. Enjoy the show, Mrs. Thorne." I stopped looking at her and strode to the study door, pulling open the heavy solid wood. Outside, the butler stood with his hands at his sides, eyes lowered, as if he had heard nothing. "Watch the madam," I ordered coldly. "Without my permission, she doesn't take a step out of this house. No one comes in to see her. Take her phone." "Yes, sir," the butler responded respectfully. I left without looking back. Behind me came Vanessa's broken screams and the sound of smashing objects, like background noise in an absurd play. "Psycho? Huh." I slid into the back seat of the black Bentley parked to the main entrance. The window rolled up slowly, cutting off all the noise from that gilded cage behind me. The cold leather seat molded to my back, the interior filled with the faint, crisp scent of leather and cigars. "Mr. Thorne, where to?" The driver, old Shun, asked steadily. "The office." I spat out 2 words, closed my eyes, and leaned back. My cheeks seemed to retain the phantom warmth from Vanessa's skin when I slapped her, and the metallic scent of blood. But instead of irritating me, the sensation acted like a potent sedative, dousing the last remaining flicker of false fire in my heart called Mrs. Thorne. Break down? Is Vanessa Sterling worthy of making Julian Thorne break down? From a young age, the first lesson I learned was that tears and begging are the most useless things in the world. If you want something, you take it. If you're betrayed, you pay it back 10-fold, 100-fold. Mercy? That only lets your opponent chew you until there are no bones left. Vanessa, and that piece of trash Adrian, would soon understand the price of waking a sleeping lion. This price would make them regret ever crawling out of the womb. The Bentley glided silently into the underground executive garage of Thorne Enterprises. The elevator went straight to the penthouse CEO office. Outside the massive floor-to-ceiling windows lay the city's bustling steel forest, traffic weaving like threads, neon lights just beginning to flicker. I stood by the window, my back straight like an unsheathed sword. "Mr. Thorne." My executive assistant, Marcus, entered silently, holding a tablet. His expression was grave, but held a trace of imperceptible excitement. "We have news on the Whispering Pallet." I turned, signaling him to continue. "Adrian's Bistro has a lot of problems." Marcus handed me the tablet. It displayed several freshly taken photos and a digital document. The kitchen hygiene is a disaster. Roaches and rats running rampant. The food sources are shady. Lots of expired. Cheap goods passed off as premium. Fire exits are blocked with junk. Extinguishers are expired. And to save money, he's illegally using commercial propane tanks in the kitchen. Massive safety hazard. The photos were clear, greasy, filthy floors, crawling roaches, stacks of labels from expired food, block hallways, rusted extinguishers, and those glaring gas tanks in the corner. Good. The corner of my mouth hooked into a cold arc. Is the evidence secured? We've already arranged for someone to get clearer internal video and procurement receipts. Marcus nodded. The Health Department, Fire Marshal, Better Business Bureau, Food Safety. Anonymous reports have been sent to every agency that has jurisdiction, filed under the names of his competitors. Also, reporters from several mainstream media outlets and City Beat, the biggest local lifestyle app, have coincidentally caught wind of it. They should be on their way. Not enough. I tapped my finger lightly against the cold glass. Just shutting him down is letting him off too easy. I want his reputation ruined. I want him to stink in this industry forever. Marcus understood immediately. Understood. I've already contacted several food suppliers we partner with. Word has gone out. Starting today, no fresh, high-quality ingredients will be supplied to the Whispering Pallet. At the same time, we've put the word out to other distributors. Anyone caught sneaking supplies to Adrian is crossing Thorn Enterprises. Good. I nodded with satisfaction, pulling the rug out from under him. Even if he isn't shut down, he won't be able to operate. Add fuel to the fire with the media. By tomorrow morning, I want the whole city reading dirt on the Whispering Palette. Make the headlines explosive, the pictures striking. Already in motion, Mr. Thorn. Kitchen of Horrors, cancer restaurant, unethical owner gambles with customer lives. We won't miss a single keyword. A ruthless glint flashed in Marcus's eyes. I guarantee the name Adrian Cole will be mud on the streets. Excellent. I walked behind a massive desk and sat down, picking up the coal metal lighter. Click. A blue flame danced, reflecting in my unmoved eyes. And Vanessa, the madam, Miss Sterling, Marcus corrected himself instantly, is being watched by the butler in her room. She's very emotional, smashed quite a few things. She keeps shouting that she wants to see you, threatening to call the police for false imprisonment and domestic violence. Police. I scoffed as if I'd heard the world's biggest joke. Let her call. I'd like to see which cop dares to meddle in Julian Thorne's domestic affairs. False imprisonment? She is legally my wife, staying in her own home. How is that imprisonment? As for domestic violence, I paused, my eyes growing colder. Does she have proof? There are no cameras in the study. The injury on her face? Who's to say she didn't go crazy and run into something? Marcus caught on. Understood. I will remind the butler to remove any hard object from the room that Miss Sterling might use to harm herself, especially mirrors. I wave my hand. Go. Keep eyes on it. I want to see the Whispering Palette closed and Adrian's face on the front page the moment it happens. Yes, sir. Marcus bowed and retreated quickly. The office returned to silence. I leaned back into the wide leather chair, fingertips absently tracing the cold desktop. The pleasure of revenge, like freezing venom, injected slowly and firmly into my veins, bringing a sobering power that bordered on a thrill. Vanessa, you wanted a show? Then I'll build a bigger stage, so you and your beloved man can perform a final act called Ruined Reputation, Dead End. The neon lights outside flickered grotesquely, reflecting the city's prosperity and coldness onto the glass curtain wall. I picked up the coffee that had gone cold on the table and took a sip. The bitterness spread across my tongue, strangely making me more alert. Breakdown? The show has only just raised the curtain. The next morning, I was woken by my phone vibrating. I wasn't in the master bedroom, but in the guest suite of the penthouse. The bed in the master bedroom was tainted with Vanessa's scent. It disgusted me. The call was from Marcus, his voice carrying a trace of suppressed excitement. Mr. Thorne, it's done. I sat up, rubbing the bridge of my nose, my voice raspy with sleep. Speak. The Whispering Palette has been sealed. Health, fire, commerce. All the departments hit at once. It was a big scene. A crowd gathered to watch. Reporters everywhere with long lenses. Mako spoke fast. That kid Adrian tried to stop them. A deputy fire marshal shoved him, and he stumbled, almost fell. He looked pathetic, and it was all caught on camera. The health department took samples on the spot. Photos of the expired food, the roaches and rats in the kitchen, and the illegal gas tanks. It's all ironclad evidence. The fire department was even harsher, slapped him with a major safety violation ticket, and ordered an indefinite suspension of business for rectification. The Commerce Bureau opened a case for false advertising and fraud. And the reporters? I threw off the covers and got out of bed, bare feet touching the cold marble floor as I walked to the window. The sky outside was gloomy, threatening rain. Headlines are already out on the mainstream sites. Marcus reported immediately. Nightmare kitchen in city center. Whispering Palette raided by Joint Task Force. Roaches and fine dining? Reporter exposes filthy kitchen. Eating your last meal? Fire hazard shocking. Unethical owner Adrian Cole condemned. The photos are high def. Adrian's pale face, close-ups of the foreclosure seals. It's impossible to miss. The live stream on City Beat broke viewership records. The comments section is tearing Adrian's ancestors apart. Good. I pulled a corner of my mouth, imagining Adrian looking like his parents had just died. The cold fire in my heart burned a little brighter. And the suppliers? Everyone's been warned. No one dares send him a single leaf of lettuce. He tried to contact a vegetable vendor this morning. The guy hung up on him. Heard Adrian was cursing his head off on the phone. Marcus's voice dripped with mockery. Keep watching. Don't let him catch his breath. I hung up. I washed up and changed into a perfectly tailored dark gray bespoke suit. The man in the mirror had sharp eyes and a tight jawline. There was not a shred of the defeat one might expect from a betrayed husband, only a near-cruel sense of control. Downstairs in the dining room, breakfast was laid out. The butler stood by with his hands clasped. Where is she? I picked up a knife and fork, methodically cutting into a sunny-side-up egg cooked to perfection. The madam is still in her room. The butler's voice was steady. She didn't touch the breakfast we sent up. She's been smashing things, cursing, saying she wants to see you, saying she wants to ruin you. I scoffed, forking a piece of egg white into my mouth. Ruin me? She should think about how to save the face of the Sterling family first. Turn on the TV. Local news. The butler obliged, switching on a massive wall-mounted screen. Sure enough, the morning news was rolling footage of the raid on the Whispering Pallet. The reporter's excited voice, the chatter of the onlookers, and the close-up of Adrian, surrounded by officers, face pale, trying to explain but being ignored, broadcast clearly through the dining room. I ate my breakfast leisurely, enjoying this play I had directed myself. On the screen, Adrian seemed to lunge at a filming reporter but was blocked by a large officer. In the shoving match, he stumbled, nearly kneeling, drawing laughter and pointing fingers from the crowd. The talented, aloof artist vibe Vanessa had raved about was gone, replaced by the panic and despair of a stray dog. Tisk tisk. I put down my cutlery and wiped the corner of my mouth with a napkin, my tone dripping with undisguised sarcasm. Vanessa's taste is truly unique. Just then, rushing, heavy footsteps sounded from upstairs, accompanied by a woman's hysterical screaming. Julian Thorne. Julian, you bastard. Come out here. You can go to hell. Vanessa charged down. She had obviously seen the news on the TV or heard whispers from her maids. Her hair was a bird's nest, eyes red and swollen, her face still bearing the faint red mark from my slap yesterday. Her expensive silk robe was wrinkled and stained, and she looked deranged. She was like an unguided missile, rushing straight for me, eyes burning with mad anger and hate. Did you do this? Was it you? She screamed, her finger nearly poking my nose. You ruined Adrian. You destroyed his shop. You despicable, shameless coward. You'll rot in hell. The butler and nearby maids paled, moving to stop her, but I stopped them with a glance. I sat there, motionless, even lifting my coffee to take a slow sip. The hot liquid slid down my throat, bringing a strange calm. I did it. I put down the cup, looked up, and stared calmly at her face, twisted by rage. It was like looking at a clown. Vanessa. Accusations require evidence. His shop was filthy, a fire trap, serving fake food. Did I force him to do any of that? He dug his own grave. What does that have to do with me? You're lying. She shook with rage, her chest heaving violently. It was you. You pulled the strings. You're jealous of him. You hate that I'm with him. You petty lunatic. You. Slam. I slammed my hand onto the table. The massive noise silenced the dining room instantly. The cups and saucers jumped. Vanessa's scream cut off abruptly, startled by my sudden fury, and she instinctively took a half-step back. I'm jealous of him. I stood up, approaching her step by step. My tall frame cast a massive, oppressive shadow over her. Vanessa, is your brain damaged? A loser who can't even manage a broken-down bistro, who relied on a woman's charity just to get back in the country. He deserves the jealousy of Julian Thorne? Crushing him is easier than crushing an ant. I looked down into her terrified eyes, my voice bone-chillingly cold, every word like an ice pick dipped in poison. As for you, being with him, I sneered, the smile filled with ultimate contempt and disgust. A cheating, shameless slut. A broken shoe I've discarded. Only a garbage recycling bin like him would want you. The two of you really are a perfect match, bitch and dog, forever and ever. You called me. Vanessa's face went white as paper, stung by my vicious words. Her lips trembled. The immense humiliation nearly made her faint. Called you names? I scoffed, my eyes sweeping over her messy robe, pointedly. I'm just stating facts. What? You were pretty uninhibited in a wild man's bed last night. Why act like a chaste saint now? Oh. Vanessa broke completely. She shrieked, lunging at me like a mother beast provoked beyond reason, her long nails aiming straight for my face. I'll kill you. My eyes sharpened. The moment she lunged, I sidestepped swiftly. My right hand shot out like lightning, accurately and ruthlessly clamping on her slender wrist. The force was so great, the faint sound of grinding bone could almost be heard. Ugh! Vanessa cried out in pain, her face instantly draining of blood, her struggle choked off. Kill me. I gripped her wrist and flung her violently to the side. She stumbled, crashing into a heavy mahogany dining chair. Her waist hit the hard backrest, making her grunt in pain, tears springing instantly to her eyes. Vanessa. I looked down at her as she clung to the chair, unable to straighten up from the pain. My eyes were cold as Siberian permafrost. Save it. With that little strength, you couldn't even scratch an itch. Want to stand up for your lover? Fine. Show me some real ability. Throwing a tantrum only makes me look down on you more. Makes me think you're cheap. Julian. She looked up, face smeared with tears and hate, roaring hoarsely. I won't let you get away with this. The Sterling family won't let you get away with this. Just you wait. The Sterling family? I raised an eyebrow theatrically, as if hearing the world's biggest joke. Oh, if you hadn't mentioned them, I almost forgot. You mean the Sterling family that barely maintains its dignity thanks to Thorne Enterprises orders. I adjusted my suit cuff, which had wrinkled slightly during the movement. My tone was casual, yet carried a fatal threat. Vanessa, you'd better pray your father has more sense than you. If he dares to challenge Julian Thorne for the sake of his shameless daughter, or that loser Adrian. I paused, leaning down close to her pupils dilated with fear, my voice dropping low, each word a blade. I wouldn't mind letting the Sterling family follow the Whispering Palette right into closure. With that, I straightened up, ignoring her bloodless face and look of terrified despair. I ordered the butler, who was standing silent as a cicada in winter. Watch her. If she runs down here acting crazy again, all of you are fired. Yes, sir. The butler bowed hastily. I turned, grabbed my suit jacket from the chair, and strode out of the dining room without looking back. Behind me, Vanessa's uncontrollable, desperate wailing echoed like a dying animal. The crying didn't move me in the slightest. Instead, it acted like adrenaline, making the cold fire of revenge in my heart burn hotter, more satisfyingly. Adrian's shop was just the appetizer. Vanessa, and the Sterling family behind her, you owe me, and I will collect principal and interest with my own hands. The next few days were calm, at least on the surface. Vanessa was effectively under house arrest in that luxurious cage. The butler executed my orders strictly. Her movement was limited to the second-floor master suite and the adjoining sitting room. Her phone was confiscated, the landline unplugged, the internet cut. She was completely severed from the outside world, a carefully penned canary, except this canary had messy feathers and poisonous eyes. She smashed things, went on hunger strikes, even tried to climb down from the second-floor balcony, only to be politely escorted back by the bodyguard stationed 24/7 below. Every outburst earned her nothing but tighter surveillance and colder meals. Her anger and curses were like punching cotton. No response, just exhausting herself until she was hollow-eyed and sallow, her meticulously maintained radiance gone. I occasionally glanced at her status on the monitor. It was like watching a boring silent film. Her breakdown and despair were essential seasonings for my feast of revenge. As for Adrian, he was sinking into the mire. The news of the Whispering Palette being raided continued to ferment. With Marcus fanning the flames, all sorts of insider info and dirt kept surfacing. Former employees anonymously leaked that Adrian abused staff and withheld wages. Longtime patrons claimed food poisoning put them in the hospital. Even industry insiders analyzed that Adrian's so-called artistic private dining concept was just plagiarized from a niche restaurant abroad. When a wall is about to fall, everyone gives it a push. In the local dining scene and online, the name Adrian Cole had become synonymous with unethical, scam, and toxic. He tried contacting the media to clarify, but no one gave him the time of day. He visited suppliers he used to be friendly with, hoping to get ingredients on credit to do some takeout and stay afloat. He didn't even make it through the door before security threw him out. Netizens started showing up at the apartment he rented, throwing paint and rotten eggs. Marcus reported Adrian's latest miseries to me daily, like broadcasting a carefully choreographed slapstick comedy. Mr. Thorne, Adrian went to the bank today. Tried to use that broken shop as collateral for a loan. The loan officer asked him to leave, didn't even offer him water. He seemingly tried to borrow money from former art school classmates. Called around. Everyone either turned off their phones or made excuses. Heard he ended up squatting under an old oak tree by the campus, smoking half a pack of cigarettes like a hobo. His cheap car. Found all 4 tires slashed this morning. Flat as pancakes. Police? Huh. The precinct boys said for a small case with no cameras. It'll take time to investigate. I listened, occasionally giving him my mood calm. This was just step 1, stripping him of his footing, letting him taste the cold reality of the world. The real main course was yet to come. How does he survive? I asked. Heard he found a gig washing dishes and skewering meat at an all-night food stall in the chaotic night market of the tenements district, working 12 hours a day for peanuts. The boss yells at him, drunk customers harass him. Marcus's tone held a trace of disdain. Those artist hands are soaking in grease and detergent all day. Probably rotting by now. I responded, emotionless. This was just physical torture. Not nearly enough. What I wanted to destroy was his spirit, that pathetic shred of pride and hope he clung to. Has he contacted Vanessa? That was the key. He tried. Marcus answered immediately. Used the payphone at the food stall, borrowed broken phones from others. Called Vanessa's old number several times. Obviously couldn't get through. He seemingly tried the Sterling family landline too. The maids hung up on him. He must have guessed Vanessa is being controlled by you. Good. A cold smile touched my lips. Only when he can't make contact will he despair. Only then will he see Vanessa as his only lifeline. Only then will he do something crazier, stupider. And that is exactly what I need. Give him some hope. I put down the tablet, my eyes dark. Let him know that Vanessa misses him dearly. Marcus paused. Then a sharp light flashed in his eyes. Mr. Thorne, you mean? Find someone reliable to pretend to accidentally leak some news to him. I spoke slowly. Say, Vanessa is being watched very closely by me, suffering terribly, crying every day, desperate to see him but can't get out. Make him think. He needs to find a way. Understood. Marcus caught on, excitement appearing on his face. I'll arrange it immediately. I guarantee that kid will think his goddess is in deep water, waiting for him to save her. Make it natural. I added. Also, that job at the food stall? Too stable. Give him some excitement. Got it. Marcus grinned viciously. Big Tony, the local heavy in that night market area, has some business dealings with one of our subsidiaries. We have a good relationship. I'll have his boys go take care of Adrian's business. Go. I waved my hand. Marcus took the order and left. Late one night a few days later, Marcus called. His voice held suppressed excitement. Mr. Thorne, the fish took the bait. And he bit hard. Speak. I stood before the floor-to-ceiling window of the penthouse, looking down at the sleeping city beneath my feet. The neon lights still flickered, but they emitted a cold detachment. The people we arranged subtly leaked the news to Adrian that Vanessa is sick with longing, tortured out of human shape. That kid's eyes went red instantly, went crazy. Mako spoke fast. He didn't go to work today, locked himself in that rat hole in the tenements all day. Tonight, he was sneaking around near the Thorne estate, lurking in the blind spots of the back alley surveillance like a stray dog looking for food. He's definitely casing the joint, looking for a chance to sneak in and see Vanessa. Oh, I raised an eyebrow. That was somewhat unexpected. It seemed despair and that fake love really could make a person lose their mind. Good. Very good. Is he carrying anything? I asked. Empty-handed, just wearing a ragged jacket. But Marcus's voice carried a ruthless edge. Our guys help him out. While he was casing the place, they accidentally dropped something next to the dumpster where he was hiding. What was it? An old-style fruit knife. Dull, but it looks intimidating enough. Marcus chuckled darkly. The kid picked it up, put it in his pocket. My eyes instantly sharpened like a hawk's. A knife? Even a dull toy. As long as he carries that thing and appears where he shouldn't, intending to approach the imprisoned missus. Thorne, the nature of this changes completely. Watch him to death. My voice was ice. Film every move he makes, especially him pocketing the knife and lurking around the estate. Also, notify security at the old house to relax a bit tonight, especially around the back gate. Leave him an opportunity. Mr. Thorne, are you planning to? Marcus's voice held a mix of nervousness and thrill. Lure the snake out of the hole, then catch the turtle in the jar. I slowly enunciated the idiom, cold light flickering in my eyes. I want him caught red-handed. I want him unable to ever flip this over. Understood. I'll oversee it personally. Marcus's voice was resolute. Hanging up, I walked to the liquor cabinet and poured myself a small glass of strong whiskey. The amber liquid swirled in the glass, reflecting the cold lights outside. I threw my head back and downed it. The spicy liquid rolled down my throat, igniting the fire of revenge in my chest. Adrian, there was a road to heaven you refused to take, and no gate to hell, yet you barged right in. Since you want to see your goddess so badly, I'll grant your wish. I'll make you remember this lesson forever, in the most tragic way possible. I picked up my phone and dialed the butler at the Thorne estate. My voice was calm, yet carried an unquestionable command. Higgins, tonight, the camera on the back wall is going to malfunction. The patrol guards between 12 and 1 a.m. are going to coincidentally gather in the front yard for a briefing. Understood. There was a moment of silence on the other end, followed by the butler's steady response. Understood, sir. Night fell like thick ink, swallowing the massive Thorne estate whole. Deep in the back alley, A dark figure moved like a ghost, sticking close to the cold, rough wall, inching through the heavy shadows. It was Adrian. He wore that wash-faded jacket, hair messy from the night wind, his face a mix of exhaustion, nerves, and a near-sickly hyperactivity. His hand tightly gripped a hard object. Through the rough fabric, he could feel the cold outline of metal, the fruit knife he'd found. The thing gave him a twisted sense of security and courage. "Vanessa, wait for me. I'm coming," he muttered neurotically, eyes fixed on a spot not far ahead. A relatively low section of the wall next to a crooked old tree. This was the breach he had found during the day. He climbed the old tree like a gecko, movements clumsy and dangerous. Rough bark scraped his palms and pant legs, but he didn't feel it. He lay on the wall, peering warily into the estate. The vast grounds were dead silent, only a few dim ground lights emitting a weak glow. The main house was dark, like a dormant beast. The patrol guards he saw during the day were nowhere to be seen. The back gate area was terrifyingly quiet. Heaven is helping me. A flash of wild joy crossed Adrian's eyes, his heart pounding against his ribs. He took a deep breath, summoned all his strength, and vaulted over the wall. Thud! A muffled sound as he hit the soft lawn heavily, grimacing in pain. But ignoring it, he scrambled up, hunched over, and relying on the layout he memorized during the day. He scurried like a frightened rat toward the main house, stumbling under the cover of heavy tree shadows and flower bushes. What he didn't know was that the moment he flipped over the wall and hit the ground, several extremely hidden pinhole cameras, fully operational, had clearly captured his silhouette. In the darkness, cold eyes were silently watching his every move through monitor screens. Adrian's heart was in his throat, adrenaline pumping like crazy. He bypassed a patch of manicured roses. The heavy back door of the main house, leading to the inner courtyard, was right in front of him. What made him even more ecstatic was that the door was actually ajar, left open a crack. Vanessa. It must be Vanessa. She knows I'm coming. She's waiting for me. This thought gripped him like a spell, burning away the last of his reason. He didn't hesitate, shoving open the unlocked door and slipping inside. Inside was a corridor leading into the house, dimly lit. Adrian pressed his back against the cold wall, gasping for air, heart almost bursting from his chest. He succeeded. He was actually in. He was about to see the Vanessa he dreamt of day and night. He felt his way forward, tiptoeing toward the direction of Vanessa's room as he remembered it. The hallway was terrifyingly quiet, save for his own heavy breathing and drumming heartbeat. Just as he turned a corner, about to step onto the stairs leading to the second floor, click, 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 blinding white floodlights, without warning, blazed from all directions at once, instantly illuminating the corridor like daylight. Stung by the sudden glare, Adrian's vision went black. He instinctively raised his arm to shield his eyes, letting out a terrified yelp. Ah! When he barely adjusted to the light and lowered his arm, the scene before him froze his blood, turning his body to ice. At the top of the stairs, looking down from the landing, stood me, Julian Thorne, dressed in a black velvet robe. My face looked even colder under the harsh light. My gaze was that of a man watching a filthy rat fall into a trap, filled with ultimate contempt and icy killing intent. And behind me, on both sides of the stairs, and at both ends of the corridor Adrian had just passed, 7 or 8 burly bodyguards in black suits appeared silently. They stood like silent iron walls, completely cutting off his retreat. In each of their hands was a working body camera, lenses pointed coldly at him. What terrified Adrian even more was that out of the corner of his eye, he saw a bodyguard standing in the shadows of the corner he just passed. In his hand was a fruit knife identical to the one in Adrian's pocket. And that bodyguard was methodically in front of the camera lens, sheathing a gleaming, sharpened combat dagger into the sheath of that old fruit knife. The movement was fluid and natural, as if the dagger belonged there. A frame-up. A naked frame-up. No. No. That knife isn't mine. You guys are. Adrian understood instantly. Massive fear and despair choked him like an icy hand. He shrieked, instinctively reaching into his pocket for the knife he found, wanting to prove his innocence. The moment his hand went into his jacket pocket and touched the handle, "Freeze! Drop the weapon!" A bodyguard roared, his voice like a thunderclap. "He has a knife. He's trying to kill." Another bodyguard immediately shouted in coordination, "Protect Mr. Thorne!" Shouts erupted all around. Thwack! A dull, heavy sound. The bodyguard closest to Adrian moved with lightning speed, landing a standard military takedown punch right into Adrian's stomach. Ugh! Adrian felt an indescribable agony explode in his abdomen, instantly sweeping through his body. His insides felt like they had shifted. His vision went black, his body curling up like a cooked shrimp. All his strength was instantly drained. He couldn't even scream, only making painful retching sounds. His hand, reaching in his pocket, dropped limply, and he collapsed onto the floor like a pile of mud. Immediately, two bodyguards pounced like wolves, brutally pinning him to the ground. His face was smashed into the carpet, rough fibers scraping his skin. A heavy boot stepped mercilessly on the wrist of the hand that had tried to pull the knife. The bone made a tooth-aching crack. Adrian finally let out a wretched scream. A bodyguard moved deftly, reaching into his jacket pocket and pulling out the knife. Now inserted in the sheath was a gleaming, sharpened dagger. Mr. Thorne, a lethal weapon. The bodyguard held the dagger high, displaying it clearly to the body camera lens. I walked slowly down the stairs, footsteps heavy, like the Grim Reaper descending. I walked up to Adrian, who was pinned firmly to the floor, struggling in pain, face covered in snot, tears, and despair. I squatted down. Under the harsh lights, his twisted, agonizing face was clearly visible. I reached out, using 2 fingers to disgustedly pinch his chin, dirty with dust and tears, forcing him to lift that face written with fear and hopelessness, to meet my gaze, cold, bone-piercing, devoid of any human emotion. Adrian, my voice wasn't loud, but it stabbed into his ears like an ice pick, carrying the cruelty of a final judgment. Trespassing, armed assault, attempted murder. Caught red-handed. I watched the last spark in his pupils extinguish, leaving only ashen despair. My lips slowly curled into an arc frozen to absolute zero. Your good days are over. Click. Cold handcuffs locked tight around Adrian's wrists that once held paintbrushes, now stained with grease and despair. The sound was exceptionally piercing in the dead silent corridor, like a funeral bell tolling for him. He was hauled up from the floor like a dead dog by 2 burly bodyguards. The agony in his stomach and the fracture in his wrist made it nearly impossible to stand. He could only hunch over, groaning in pain. His face was plastered with tears, snot, and carpet fibers, utterly wretched. He looked up. Those eyes that once shone with artistic brilliance in front of Vanessa were now filled with boundless terror and dead gray hopelessness. He stared at me, lips trembling, unable to spit out a single word. Take him away. I waved my hand, my voice flat as if disposing of garbage. The bodyguards dragged him mercilessly toward the passage leading to the underground garage. Adrian struggled futilely, throat making hoarse, bellows-like sounds, filled with unwillingness and pleading. But in the face of absolute power, it all seemed so laughable and weak. The corridor returned to silence, leaving only the faint red blinking of the body cameras. Mr. Thorne, Marcus walked quickly to my side, lowering his voice, a trace of excitement in it. We got all. Perfect angles, complete chain of evidence. Surveillance of him jumping the wall, him sneaking around, him hiding the knife in his pocket. Even if it was planted, him reaching for the weapon, our self-defense takedown, and finally searching out the weapon. Ironclad. Even if he had 100 mouths, he couldn't explain this away. I acknowledged, my gaze sweeping over the marks Adrian's struggle had left on the floor, eyes cold. Notify Chief Jean. The suspect is being delivered to him immediately. Tell him, armed home invasion, extremely malicious intent. Target was Julian Thorne. Have him prosecute to the fullest extent. Understood. A sharp light flashed in Marcus's eyes. The chief knows the score. This kind of case, caught red-handed targeting you? 10 years, minimum. No escaping it. Excellent. I turned, no longer looking at the mess. Clean this up. Also, I paused, looking toward the master bedroom on the 2nd floor. It remained dead silent, as if isolated from everything that just happened downstairs. Take the highlights from just now, especially Adrian being pinned down, pulling the weapon, and that final look in his eyes. Cut a clip. High definition. Marcus understood immediately, a knowing, savage grin appearing on his face. Understood. I guarantee Miss Sterling will see it. Crystal clear. I nodded and stepped toward the 2nd floor. My leather shoes moved silently on the thick carpet, carrying the weight of a judge. The master bedroom door was locked. I signaled the bodyguard stationed there to open it. The heavy solid wood door was pushed open. The main lights weren't on. Only a dim wall lamp by the bed emitted a weak glow. Vanessa was curled up in the farthest corner of the room on the carpet, back to the door, balled up like an abandoned, shivering small animal. She had clearly heard the chaos and screams downstairs. Her body was trembling uncontrollably. Hearing the door open, she shuddered violently, but didn't turn around, just curled tighter. I walked in, closing the door behind me with a backhand motion. A massive shadow engulfed her. It was quite lively downstairs just now. I spoke. My voice was exceptionally clear in the quiet room, and exceptionally cold. Vanessa's body shook violently again. Still no movement, no response. Your sweetheart, Adrian. I walked slowly in front of her, looking down at her curled back, enunciating every word. He came. Vanessa's head snapped up. Days apart, she had withered. Eyes sunken, cheekbones protruding, skin sallow like old paper. Her once vibrant eyes were now bloodshot, hollow, terrified, yet holding a trace of incredulous, weak light. He came. Her voice was hoarse and dry, like sandpaper rubbing together. Yes, I looked down at her, eyes like I was watching a farce. For you? He really went all out, jumping walls, sneaking in, carrying a knife. TSK, truly deep affection. Knife! Vanessa's eyes widened instantly. That weak light turned into massive terror. Why would he bring a knife? He couldn't. I interrupted her with a sneer, pulling my phone from my robe pocket. I opened the high-def video Marcus just sent and shoved the screen right in front of Vanessa's face. See for yourself. The screen played clearly. Surveillance of Adrian sneaking over the wall. Him prowling in the dark, hand clutching the weapon in his jacket. His terrified face when the floodlights hit. The motion of him reaching into his jacket for the knife deliberately slowed down. The bodyguard's thunderous strike knocking him down. Him being pinned, the dagger pulled from his pocket and held high. Finally, the close-up of me gripping his chin, announcing his good days are over. The picture was clear, angles sharp, accompanied by the chaotic noise and Adrian's painful screams and groans. The impact was visceral. No, that's not real. You framed him. You guys framed him. Vanessa took one look and recoiled like she'd been bitten by a viper. She flailed her hands wildly, trying to knock the phone away, screaming hysterically, her voice warping into a shriek. Julian, you devil. You'll rot in hell. You framed him. Give Adrian back to me. Give him back. Frame. I pulled the phone back, watching her break down, my eyes cold and cruel. Solid evidence. Body cams recorded everything. Caught red-handed. Vanessa, you're still making excuses for him? He brought a knife, broke into my home, intending to harm me. That is an ironclad fact. I squatted down, suddenly reaching out to grab her flailing wrists. My grip was so tight, she cried out in pain. Look, I forced her to meet my eyes. My gaze was sharp as a knife, piercing through everything with coldness. Look at your true love. Look at what he became for you. A criminal who broke in with a knife. An utter failure. A loser who is about to rot in prison. No, he did it to save me. He did it to save me. Vanessa hurt from my grip, tears flooding out, mixed with mucus smearing her face. She shook her head frantically, crying incoherently. I hurt him. Julian, take it out on me. Let him go. Please let him go. I'll do anything. I admit I was wrong. I apologize. I'll kowtow to you. Let Adrian go. Please. She really struggled, trying to break free of my hand to kneel and kowtow. Massive fear and regret had completely crushed her. Pride, revenge, wanting to see Julian break down, it all turned to dust. She just wanted to save Adrian's life. Let him go. I watched her weeping, abject begging, a twisted pleasure rising in my heart. Is this the breakdown she wanted? How ironic. Vanessa, you're begging the wrong person. The law won't let a criminal who attempted armed assault go. Adrian can spend the rest of his life rehabilitating in prison. I released her wrists, wiping my hand on her expensive robe with disgust, as if I had touched something filthy. As for you, I stood up, looking down at her collapsed, soul-lost form, pronouncing the sentence coldly. Stay here and wait for the court summons. As his accomplice and the source of motive, do you think you can wash your hands of this completely? Accomplice. Summons. Vanessa was completely stunned, paralyzed on the floor, staring hollowly at the ceiling, muttering unconsciously like a shell with the soul sucked out. I stopped looking at her, turned, and strode out of this room filled with the scent of despair and collapse. The heavy door closed behind me, cutting off the suppressed, wounded animal whimpering inside. Outside, Marcus stood with hands at his sides. Mr. Thorne, Adrian has been delivered to the station. Chief Zhang took it personally, said the evidence is solid, nature malicious, social impact terrible. They will process it fast and hard. Preliminary estimate, 10 years minimum. And Once he's inside, he'll get special care. Guarantee he'll remember it forever. Marcus's voice held a trace of cruel delight. I nodded, eyes dark. Prepare the divorce papers for Vanessa. Also, notify Robert Sterling to come collect his person. Tell him his daughter is suspected of soliciting a crime. Let him figure it out. Yes, sir, Marcus responded. I walked to the second-floor terrace. The cold night wind brushed my cheeks. Downstairs, the flashing red and blue lights of the police cruiser had just disappeared from the estate gates. Adrian was finished. Vanessa was completely ruined too. Robert Sterling and his family would only get more desperate from here. The fire of revenge burned in my chest, bringing a nearly scorching, hearty thrill. But this wasn't enough. Far from enough. What I wanted was total destruction, for them to never rise again. Vanessa, didn't you ache for your first love? Didn't you want to see him break down? Soon, you'll know that in the face of true despair, that laughable pain of yours isn't worth mentioning. 3 days after Adrian was taken in, the news spread. Not gossip, but the legal columns of the local news channel and the City Beat app. The wording was rigorous, yet every word was a condemnation. Local police solved a vicious case of attempted armed home invasion. Suspect Adrian C. Male, 28, unemployed, due to a romantic dispute, carried a controlled blade and scaled the wall into a high-end residential area on the morning of date, intending to commit unlawful harm against homeowner Mr. Thorne, subdued on the spot by security. Case under further investigation. Legal analysts suggest, given the malicious nature and high social danger, suspect may face over 10 years in prison. The news was short and didn't mention Vanessa by name, but keywords like romantic dispute, high-end residential, and homeowner Mr. Thorne, combined with the uproar of the Mrs. Thorne affair and the Whispering Pallet incident. Any idiot could piece the puzzle together. The internet exploded again. This time, Adrian was thoroughly nailed to the pillar of shame, upgraded from unethical boss to mad dog with a knife and pervert aiming for a swan. Although Vanessa's name didn't appear directly, the title Mrs. Thorne became synonymous with femme fatale and shameless. Even the Sterling family was dug up, with rumors of bad debts and mismanagement swirling. The Thorne estate became the center of the storm. Despite heavy security, it couldn't block the pervasive prying and gossip. Vanessa was completely imprisoned on the second floor, like a trapped beast on display. Marcus thoughtfully installed a tablet in her room, connected only to local news and the City Beat app. So, she was forced to watch the news about Adrian on loop, read the vicious comments, and see the photos of Adrian being shoved into the police car with a look of despair, a high-res close-up Marcus found specifically. This was crueler than any beating. Her mind was collapsing at a visible rate. On the monitor, she sometimes laughed and cried at the tablet screen, sometimes tore at her hair frantically, banging her head against the wall, and other times sat by the window like a soulless puppet, staring for the whole day. She wasted away rapidly, eyes sunken, skeletal, her former beauty gone, leaving only the wreckage gnawed by despair and regret. That afternoon, rain poured down. Bean-sized drops smashed frantically against the floor-to-ceiling windows, making a loud racket. The world outside was chaos. I sat on the sofa in the first-floor living room, holding a document Marcus had just delivered, an assessment of the Sterling Group's latest financial status. The report showed that while Robert Sterling was running around like a headless chicken these past few days, the Sterling Group's core clients, under subtle pressure from Thorne Enterprises, had successively terminated their contracts. The capital chain was completely broken. Bankruptcy was just a matter of time. Mr. Thorne, Marcus stood by, speaking low. Robert Sterling is here again, outside the gate in the rain. Says he wants to see you or see Miss Sterling once. I looked up. Through the rain-blurred window, I could faintly see a hunched figure holding a black umbrella outside the carved iron gates, looking exceptionally small and desolate in the torrential downpour. It was Robert Sterling. Let him in. I closed the file, my voice flat. Soon, a soaked, wretched Robert Sterling was brought in by the butler. His expensive suit was saturated, clinging to his body, outlining his thin, hunched frame. Wet hair plastered to his forehead, face gray, eye bag swollen, lips purple and trembling with cold. Days apart, he seemed to have aged 20 years. The shrewd businessman aura was gone, leaving only the desperate twilight of an old man at a dead end. You'll... Julian, seeing me, a faint glimmer appeared in his cloudy eyes, like grasping at a straw. He stumbled, wanting to rush over. The bodyguards stopped him without a word. Mr. Sterling. I leaned back on the sofa, not offering a seat, looking at him indifferently. Something the matter? Julian, Julian, I beg you. Stopped by the bodyguards, Robert simply dropped to his knees with a thud on the cold marble floor. Muddy tears mixed with rainwater slid down his deeply wrinkled face. I beg you, raise your hand high and let us pass. Let Vanessa go. Let the Sterling family go. Adrian deserves it. He had it coming. We accept that. But Vanessa, she's innocent. She was just confused for a moment. She knows she's wrong now. She's going crazy. Please let me see her. Let me take her away. I promise. I promise to take her far away, never to appear in front of you again, never to be an eyesore. He wept bitterly, forehead knocking heavily against the floor with muffled thuds, humbled into the dust. Innocent, I scoffed as if hearing the most absurd joke, my eyes suddenly turning cold. Robert, stow that act. Your daughter incited Adrian to armed assault, attempted murder of her husband. You tell me she's innocent? Before the law, everyone is equal. Whether she's innocent is for the judge to say. No, she didn't incite him. She didn't know anything. Robert looked up abruptly, blood marks on his forehead mixing with rain and tears, a mess. It was Adrian going crazy on his own. It has nothing to do with Vanessa. Julian, for the sake of my old face, for the sake of when I helped the Thorne family. Help the Thorne family? I interrupted, voice rising with thunderous anger. Robert, you have the face to bring that up. If the Thorne family hadn't pulled you up back then, Sterling Group would have been liquidated years ago. All these years, leaning on the thorn tree. How many benefits did you reap? You don't know? But your daughter? How did she repay me? I stood up, walking step by step to Robert, who was kneeling. My massive shadow completely engulfed him. I looked down at his tear-streaked face, full of fear and pleading, my eyes cold knives. Your daughter cuckolds me, makes me a laughingstock, and wants to see me break down. Her lover breaks into my house with a knife. One in my life. Now, you want to wipe it all away with a light moment of confusion, and she's innocent. You want me to let you go? I squatted down, level with his terrified eyes, voice low but hitting his heart like a sledgehammer. Robert Sterling, listen well. Your daughter, Vanessa, will never have a good life again. She's upstairs right now, watching her sweetheart rot in prison. As for your family, I paused, watching the last light in his eyes extinguish into ashen despair, before pronouncing the cruel sentence word by word. Bankruptcy, liquidation, get out of this city. That is the Sterling family's only ending. No. Robert let out a wail of utter despair, body shaking violently like the last dead leaf in an autumn wind. He reached out, trying to grab my pant leg. Julian, you can't do this. You can't kill us all. I'll kowtow. I'll be your slave. Please. Get out. I kicked his withered hand away with disgust, standing up, no warmth in my eyes. Marcus, see him out. In the future, don't let this kind of trash step into the Thorne house again. Yes. Marcus and the bodyguard stepped forward immediately, rudely hoisting the limp, mud-like Robert up and dragging him toward the door. Julian Thorne, you'll die badly. You'll get your karma. Karma. As Robert was dragged out, he screamed curses filled with venom, mixed with the sound of rushing rain outside, quickly drowned out. I walked expressionlessly to the huge floor-to-ceiling window. Outside, the rain poured. Robert was roughly pushed out of the carved iron gate by the bodyguards. He stumbled and fell into a puddle outside. His black umbrella rolled away, and he was instantly drenched like a drowned rat. He struggled up, waving his fist at the closed iron gate and the brightly lit Thorne Manor, letting out a silent, desperate roar like a beast at the end of its road. Soon, a beat-up taxi stopped and hauled him in, disappearing into the vast curtain of rain. I turned, looking toward the stairs leading to the second floor. A skeletal figure in a white robe had appeared there, unnoticed. It was Vanessa. She had clearly seen everything that just happened downstairs, her father kneeling, kowtowing, begging, and finally being thrown out like garbage. She gripped the banister, shaking like a candle in the wind. Her face was bloodlessly pale, lips bitten until they bled. The eyes that once held malice and triumph now held only boundless emptiness, numbness, and a kind of utter, deadly despair. She looked at me, and I looked at her. Across the cold air and the sound of pouring rain, neither of us spoke. In her eyes, there was no more hate, no resentment, only a dead silence after being completely crushed. That was a breakdown more thorough than any hysteria. Good. The corner of my mouth slowly hooked into a cold, satisfied arc. Vanessa, watching your father chased out like a dog, watching your family face total ruin, watching your lover rot in prison. How does it taste? Does it feel good? This is what a true breakdown looks like. Robert Sterling was tossed into the rain like a stray dog. The news that the Sterling ship had sunk completely flew across the city on wings. The wall fell, and everyone pushed. Banks called in loans, suppliers blocked the doors, partners canceled contracts. Court summons flew like snowflakes. The shaky framework of the Sterling Group collapsed with a gentle push from the invisible hand of Thorne Enterprises, not even making a decent splash. Bankruptcy, liquidation, asset auctions, all of Robert's real estate, luxury cars, even his collection of questionable antiques were sealed. The once glorious Chairman Sterling became destitute overnight, burdened with massive debt. Rumor had it he couldn't take the blow and suffered a sudden cerebral hemorrhage. Though revived, he was paralyzed on one side, lingering in a poorly equipped public hospital on the outskirts, struggling even to pay medical bills. Marcus thoughtfully compiled these updates into a briefing and pushed them to the madam on the second floor via the monitored tablet. Vanessa went completely quiet. No more crying, no smashing, no cursing. She was like a ghost curled up in the darkest corner of the room most of the day, hugging her knees, chin resting on them, staring blankly out the window, motionless. Occasionally, she would pick up the tablet, swiping unconsciously, reading the news about the Sterling bankruptcy auction, looking at the photos reporters sneaked of her father lying in a hospital bed full of tubes, reading the vicious online curses calling her father Jinx, husband Jinx, broom star. Her face held no expression. Her eyes were two dry wells, bottomless, holding only a dead gray. She wasted away rapidly, skeletal, the loose robe hanging on her like a shroud on a frame. Her once cared-for hair became dry and matted. She began to emit a scent of decaying wood. The pleasure of revenge burned in my chest like cold liquor, watching her be swallowed by despair bit by bit, rotting away. It gave me a twisted satisfaction greater than simply killing her. But this wasn't the finish line. Adrian's case, under Chief Zhang's personal supervision, progressed at lightning speed. The chain of evidence was flawless, the nature malicious, the social impact terrible, especially with Thorne Enterprises unintentionally pushing it. Plus Adrian's own mental breakdown made him incoherent in interrogation, unable to mount a defense. The first instance verdict came down quickly, 12 years in prison. 12 years. Enough to grind a person's edges, hope, and artistic cells into dust in a dark cell. And the special care Marcus arranged would make those 12 years feel more like hell than hell itself. The day the verdict came down, it was another rainy day. A drizzle, carrying the chill of late autumn. I had Marcus invite Vanessa downstairs. She was like a marionette, half supported, half dragged by bodyguards to the living room. She wore only a thin robe, barefoot on the cold marble floor, body shivering slightly, whether from cold or fear. I threw the copy of the verdict, still smelling of ink, right at her feet. Take a look. I sat on the sofa, voice flat. Your lover's final destination. Vanessa's hollow eyes slowly, painfully focused on the document with black text on white paper at her feet. When her gaze hit the words Adrian Cole and 12 years imprisonment, her body jerked violently, like hit by invisible electricity. She slowly, agonizingly bent down, skeletal fingers trembling as she picked up the verdict. Head bowed, she stared at those lines as if trying to burn a hole through the paper. Her shoulders began to shake violently, throat making sounds like broken bellows, suppressed and painful. 12 years. Her dry lips moved, emitting a hoarse, barely audible gasp. Yes, 12 years. I spoke coldly, voice like ice shards. In a place like that, soft-skinned like him, having offended the wrong people. How long do you think he'll last? 3 years? 5? Or suffer a living death for the full 12? No. Stop saying it. Please. Stop. Vanessa jerked her head up. Her face was no longer dead numbness, but torn apart by massive pain and terror. Tears surged, washing over her sallow, haggard cheeks. She gripped the verdict tightly, knuckles white, the paper groaning under the strain. Heartbroken, I stood up, walking to her, seeing the near-death agony in her eyes, a wave of cruel pleasure rising in my heart. I reached out, using 2 fingers to pinch her bony chin like I was holding something dirty, forcing her to look into my cold eyes. Vanessa, remember that face you made when you threw those photos at me? That smug look, waiting for me to break down. My voice wasn't loud, but like a poison-dipped needle, it stabbed into her nerves. Look at you now. Look at your old man waiting to die in the hospital. Look at your lover facing a living hell in prison. I squeezed my fingers on her chin, almost hearing the bone creak, the pain making her tears flow harder, This is what a breakdown is. I stared into her eyes twisted by pain, pronouncing each word like a sentence. Isn't this what you wanted to see? Are you satisfied now? Ah. Vanessa finally broke completely. She let out a wretched, inhuman shriek, a sound filled with endless regret, despair, pain, and madness. She yanked free from my hand, lunging at me like a mother beast cornered, holding the verdict tight as if it were her only weapon. "Julian, I'll kill you. I'll take you with me," she screamed, eyes wild and chaotic. The bodyguards nearby were ready. The moment she lunged, they struck like lightning, pinning her skeletal arms from left and right. Her struggle was so laughable and weak against absolute strength. "Let me go. Let me go. Devil. You are all devils." Ah! She kicked and thrashed wildly, crying, cursing, hair wild, snot and tears flowing, looking insane. I watched her final madness coldly, no ripple in my eyes. When she struggled until she was exhausted, leaving only desperate whimpers, I spoke slowly. "Throw her out." The bodyguards paused. "Mr. Thorne, throw her out," I repeated, voice cold and clear. "Throw her into the rain outside. Let her sober up properly." "Yes." The bodyguards didn't hesitate, dragging the weakly struggling, wailing Vanessa, striding toward the door. The heavy carved doors opened. Outside, freezing autumn rain mixed with cold wind poured in instantly. "No, don't. Julian, you can't. It's so cold. Please, don't." Vanessa felt the chill, screaming in terror, struggling harder. The bodyguards ignored her, tossing her like a bag of trash, shoving her hard out the door. Bang! The heavy doors slammed shut behind her, cutting off the warmth and light inside. Vanessa, in her thin robe, barefoot, was pushed onto the wet, freezing stone steps of the porch. The icy rain soaked her instantly. The bone-chilling cold made her shake violently. She struggled to get up, slipped, and fell heavily again, knees hitting the hard ground, pain making her curl into a ball. She looked up at the gray sky, dropping freezing rain, letting out a wretched, desperate wail like a lonely ghost. The cry pierced the rain curtain, filled with endless pain and regret, heart-rending. "Adrian! Dad! I was wrong. I was really wrong." She pounded the freezing ground, fingernails scraping blood on the stone, mixing with rain and tears, flowing freely down her face. She rolled, wailed, and cursed in the icy rain like a madwoman, until only weak, broken whimpers remained. I stood before the massive floor-to-ceiling window, looking through the rain-blurred glass, coldly watching the figure curled up on the freezing steps outside in the rain curtain, like a rag doll abandoned by the world. The rain ruthlessly washed over her, washing away the dirt on her face and washing away her last shred of dignity and disguise. Her skeletal body trembled violently in the cold wind, every spasm accompanied by suppressed, painful whimpers. That sound, weak but piercing, like the mournful cry of a dying beast. This was the breakdown she wanted. This was the price of betraying Julian Thorne. Cold pleasure, like the richest liquor, spread through my limbs, bringing an unprecedented, hearty relief. I turned, looking no more at the drama of despair I had directed outside the window. The fire of revenge, in this moment, burned to its peak. The icy rain, like countless fine steel needles, stabbed ruthlessly into Vanessa's exposed skin. The thin robe was thoroughly soaked, plastered to her body, outlining her skeletal, skull-like frame. Bare feet on the slippery, freezing stone steps, the cold shot from her soles to her skull, making her teeth chatter, body shaking uncontrollably like a withered leaf ready to shatter in the wind. She curled into the cold corner of the thorn porch, trying to hide from the wind and rain, but it was useless. Every breath brought icy pain, every shiver pulled at every nerve, bringing deeper cold and agony. The knees she scraped falling burned under the wash of rain. Regret, despair, fear, cold. Countless emotions gnawed at her heart like vipers. She thought of Adrian's numb, despairing face in the police car, thought of her father lying in a hospital bed full of tubes, thought of her own vicious triumph when she threw those photos. Massive pain nearly suffocated her, throat making hoarse, bellows like sobbing sounds. Wrong. I was really wrong. She hugged her freezing body, burying her face deep in her knees, tears mixing with rain, scalding yet freezing. Karma. It's all karma. Not knowing how long she curled in the freezing rain, until she felt her body going numb and consciousness blurring, a beat-up taxi, like a ghost, stopped silently outside the Thorne Estate iron gates. The door opened, and a middle-aged woman in a cheap raincoat, hunched over, got out with difficulty. It was the Sterling family's old maid, Martha. She had watched Vanessa grow up. After the Sterling bankruptcy, she was the only one willing to care if this father and daughter lived or died. Martha held an umbrella, looking anxiously toward the porch. When she saw the figure curled into a ball, shivering in the corner, she gasped, "Miss!" She stumbled and ran over. "Miss! Miss, why are you here? Oh God, look at you!" Martha saw Vanessa's wretched state, and tears fell instantly. She hurriedly took off her own raincoat, wrapping it around Vanessa's freezing, trembling body, trying hard to help her up. "Get up. The ground is too cold. You'll get sick. Come home with me." "Home." Vanessa was half dragged, half held up by Martha, eyes hollow and blank like a lost child. "Do I still have a home?" Yes. Martha wept with heartache, using all her strength to support her. "Martha's place is your home. Let's go, get in the car. Let's go home." Martha practically carried the limp, semi-conscious Vanessa into the back of the beat-up taxi. The car started, driving through the rain away from the cold cage that symbolized wealth and power, but also buried all her pride and future, driving toward the city's edge, the most chaotic, cheapest slum, the tenements. The environment of the tenements wasn't much better than the storage room Adrian rented before. Narrow, dark, damp, hallways piled with junk, smelling of mold, cooking grease, and cheap perfume. Martha rented a tiny single room, partitioned with a cloth curtain, barely counting as two halves. Vanessa was settled on Martha's creaking old bed, wrapped in the only thick quilt Martha owned. Martha boiled water, carefully wiped her body dry with a towel, dressed her in clean old clothes, and made a bowl of hot ginger soup, feeding her spoon by spoon. The body's chill was driven away a bit, but the ice in her heart only grew thicker. Vanessa lay there like a puppet, letting Martha move her, staring blankly at the mottled, yellowing ceiling stained with water, saying nothing. "Miss, eat something. Martha made you some porridge." Martha held a bowl of white porridge, coaxing carefully. Vanessa had no reaction, just turned her face to the wall, curling tighter. Martha sighed, put down the bowl, sat by the bed, and patted her back with rough hands like soothing a child. Sleep a bit. When you sleep, it won't hurt." In the following days, Vanessa sank completely into boundless darkness. She didn't eat, didn't drink, didn't speak, just curled on the bed all day, eyes open and hollow. Martha had to wash dishes at a nearby diner during the day to make money, so she could only leave water and some liquid food by the bed, forcing her to eat a little when she came back at night. She wasted away rapidly, cheeks sunken deep, cheekbones high, skin sallow and dull, hair dry and matted, body emitting the decaying scent peculiar to the dying. Martha was frantic, secretly buying the cheapest medicine, but Vanessa wouldn't take it. She went to the hospital where Robert Sterling was, hoping to beg for money or let Vanessa see her father, but the hospital said Robert was in bad shape, owing huge fees, couldn't even afford a nurse, relying on kindness from ward mates. Martha's meager wages barely covered Vanessa's medicine, let alone expensive hospital bills. Despair, like thick ink, soaked this tiny, ruined corner. That night, Martha dragged her exhausted body back, holding a crumpled paper bag with 2 cold meat buns the diner boss gave her out of pity. She pushed open the creaking door, habitually looking at the bed. The bed was empty. "Miss!" Martha's heart dropped. The bag fell to the floor. She rushed into the tiny bathroom. No one. She lifted the curtain to her sleeping corner. No one. "Miss! Vanessa! Where are you?" Martha panicked, voice tearing, rushing out the door, shouting in the dim, noisy hallway of the tenement filled with cooking smoke and cheap music. "What's the noise?" Crazy old hag. A woman next door with heavy makeup and revealing clothes poked her head out, scolding impatiently. "That crazy niece of yours? Saw her going up to the roof just now. Like she lost her soul." "Roof?" Martha's brain buzzed, a chill shooting from her feet to her head. Ignoring the insult, she stumbled and ran toward the steep, narrow iron stairs leading to the roof. The roof of the tenement was empty and dilapidated, piled with abandoned furniture and trash. The cold night wind howled, making it hard to stand. Martha rushed onto the roof and instantly saw the thin figure standing at the edge. Vanessa wore only thin old clothes, barefoot, standing outside the waist-high cement guardrail. Her body swayed in the fierce wind like a withered grass stem ready to snap. Long hair whipped around, covering most of her face. "Vanessa, don't!" Martha's soul almost scattered. She screamed heartbreakingly, rushing over regardless of everything. Vanessa seemed to hear Martha. She turned her head slowly, extremely slowly. Moonlight and the faint neon glow of the distant city illuminated that face. Sallow, withered, sunken eyes, towering cheekbones, lips cracked and bleeding. But what terrified Martha most were those eyes. No longer hollow, no longer numb. Inside was a calm of utter release, an ashen silence of seeing through everything, tired of everything. No fear, no attachment, only a boundless, cold nothingness. Martha. Her voice was hoarse, almost inaudible, scattered by the wind. I'm so tired. No, Vanessa, come back. Come back quick, Martha cried, throwing herself at the railing, reaching out, desperately trying to grab her. Think of your dad. Think of Adrian. They're still here. You can't do this. Come back. Martha begs you. Dad, Adrian. Vanessa muttered the names, a faint, extremely weak ripple in her eyes, instantly drowned by deeper gray. She pulled the corner of her mouth, seeming to want to smile, but it was uglier than crying. It's all over. All. Ruined by me. She took one last look at the city below, divided by darkness and scattered lights. No emotion in her eyes, just dead water calm. Martha. I am sorry. She whispered, the sound drifting away in the wind. Then, amidst Martha's heart-rending scream that nearly tore her throat, amidst the muffled noise of cheap music and hawking from the night market below, Vanessa's body, like a withered leaf losing all support, tipped forward, plunging straight into the bottomless darkness. No! Martha's wretched, desperate wail pierced the noisy, yet numb night sky of the tenements. Thorne Enterprises' penthouse, CEO office. Outside the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, the morning sun rose, gold piercing the clouds, plating the city in dazzling light. The steel forest woke in the dawn, traffic weaving, filled with vigorous life and cold order. I, Julian Thorne, stood by the window, holding a freshly poured glass of amber whiskey. The ice sphere clinked against the glass, a crisp sound. The dark gray bespoke suit wrapped my body perfectly, outlining a tall, straight silhouette. The face in the reflection was sharp, eyes deep and keen, showing no fatigue, only a cold calm of absolute control. Mr. Thorne. Marcus pushed the door open, steps steady, face wearing a trace of imperceptible relief from a completed mission. He held a thin report. Speak. I didn't turn, gaze still on the prosperous scene lit by the morning sun outside. Vanessa Sterling is dead. Marcus's voice was flat, like reporting an inconsequential financial figure. Last night, jumped from the roof of the tenements. Died on impact. My fingers holding the glass tightened almost imperceptibly. The cold glass transmitted a clear sensation. Scene was messy. Place like the tenements, police did a cursory report, ruled it suicide due to excessive life pressure. Her father, Robert Sterling, this morning in the hospital. He went too. Sudden cardiac arrest, failed resuscitation. Marcus continued reporting, tone flat. The Sterling family is completely gone. Silence fell briefly in the office. Only the faint hum of the city outside and the tiny sound of ice melting in liquor. Dead. Jumped. Robert dead too. Sterling family. Completely gone. These pieces of information like cold bullets shot into my brain one by one, yet caused no great ripple. Expected. Or rather, this was part of the plan, the final chapter already written in the revenge script. Before my eyes, images flashed. Vanessa curled up wailing in the rain when pushed out of the Thorne gates. Her triumphant, malicious face when she threw the photos, Adrian's dead-ash eyes when pinned down with the weapon, Robert kneeling and kowtowing with his humble old face. All images finally froze on that skeletal figure swaying in the wind on the edge of the tenement roof. Eyes dead, then falling. An indescribable, cold, intense pleasure, like surging magma, instantly broke all dams, exploding violently from the depths of my heart. It roared through my veins, sweeping my limbs, bringing a near-shuddering, hearty, ultimate thrill. It's over. It's all over. The betrayers, the destroyers, along with their filthy past and laughable reliance, were ground into powder by my own hands, bit by bit, wiped completely from this world. A low, pleased chuckle escaped my throat uncontrollably. I raised the glass, threw my head back, and downed the spicy, rich liquid in one go. The hot liquor slid down my throat, burning the esophagus, igniting the fire of revenge in my chest, making it burn hotter, more satisfyingly. This feeling was more blood-pumping than signing a billion-dollar contract, more stirring than conquering the toughest rival. Good. Damn good. And Adrian? I put down the empty glass, turning around. My eyes were sharp as ever, even brighter, carrying the cold sharpness of vengeance fulfilled. News from the prison. Marcus answered immediately, a cruel smile appearing on his face too. That kid just got in, didn't know the rules, and because he offended you, got special care a few times. Hurt. He accidentally slipped into showers 2 days ago, broke his leg. Prison infirmary is limited. They said it, but in the future, he'll be walking with a limp, and having offended people inside. His days will only get more exciting. Cripple, in a dark cell, dragging a broken leg, enduring endless special care. 12 years. No, he might not survive 12 years. I nodded with satisfaction. This ending was perfect. Destruction of body and spirit, never to turn over. Also, Marcus handed over the report. This is the final report on Sterling Group's bankruptcy liquidation. All assets auctioned to cover debts. Insolvent parts legally written off. Sterling Group, legally speaking, no longer exists. I took the report, flipping through casually. The cold numbers and words like liquidation complete, registration canceled announced the total demise of a once proud family business. Robert Sterling's life work, along with his and his daughter's lives, turned to nothing. Clean it up. I tossed the report back to Marcus, voice indifferent. Wipe all related traces. I don't want to hear any more news about the Sterlings, Vanessa, or Adrian. Understood. Rest assured, Mr. Thorne, it will be spotless. Marcus responded solemnly, putting the report away. Also, I walked behind a large desk, sinking into the soft leather chair, fingers tapping lightly on the smooth surface. Notify Legal. My private equity firm, Starlight Capital, can start the acquisition assessment for the land where the Whispering Pallet stood. That plot. Good location. A sharp light flashed in Marcus's eyes as he caught on. Yes, Mr. Thorne, that plot is now tainted. Price will be rock bottom. I'll arrange it immediately. Guarantee we get the cleanest land for the least money. I waved my hand. Go. Marcus bowed, retreating quickly, gently closing the heavy office door. The massive office returned to silence. Only the low hum of the central AC and the ceaseless background noise of the city outside. I leaned back, closing my eyes. In my mind, the images that once angered me, humiliated me, Vanessa and Adrian's hotel photos, her smug face throwing them, her vicious words want to see me break down. At this moment, they became incredibly distant, blurry, like behind thick frosted glass. Replacing them was the wretchedness of Vanessa wailing in the rain, the dead eyes of Adrian pulling the weapon, the humility of Robert kneeling, the skeletal figure leaping from the tenement roof, the cripple struggling in the dark prison. These images, clear, sharp, carrying a cruel beauty, flashed before my eyes. Each flash was like a potent stimulant injected into my veins, making that cold, intense pleasure rise and surge again. Betrayal? Humiliation? Want to see me break down? Vanessa, Adrian, you used the stupidest way to teach me a lesson and dug your own graves. Now, the dust has settled. The betrayers are dead without a grave. The destroyers fallen into hell forever. And I, Julian Thorne, still stand here at the peak of this city, looking down on this steel jungle I control. Sunlight poured unreservedly through the massive window, filling the space, falling on me, bringing warmth. But what burned in my chest was a fire hotter and more lasting than sunlight. The cold, pure embers of victory left after the fire of revenge burned out. I opened my eyes, gaze sharp as a falcon, sweeping over the world bathed in morning sun, full of infinite possibility. No emptiness, no confusion, only an unprecedented sense of power, of controlling everything, and a thrilling, hearty satisfaction. I reached out, picking up the expensive bottle of whiskey, pouring another full glass. The amber liquid swirled, refracting the brilliant sunlight. I raised the glass toward the rising, radiant sun outside the window, mouth slowly hooking into a cold, cheerful arc. Here's to you. Rotting in hell. Head back, down in one. Spicy, hot, straight to the gut. Good.